Hey, everybody, welcome to Love and Relo, the voice of relocation. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I am blessed and honored to be here with Robert Horsley, Executive Director of Fragomen. Robert, how are you doing?
Great. Hey, really excited to be with you here today. I didn't get the Thai memo, and I don't know that I have anymore. So I'm
Californians
glad I
don't
didn't
speak
get the
Thai.
memo.
That's the problem.
No,
So
no.
I remember. So I recognize what an egregious faux pas this is. We're supposed to be culturally aware in this industry, and I recognize this is totally out of line. You know what, Robert, just and don't get excited.
Like
this is as far as it goes,
okay.
but we're gonna do this. And now
I like it. I like it. I feel much more comfortable. I'm at ease now.
You know, it's funny you bring that up because I remember my first BAM conference. I showed up in a suit and tie, which was is my thing, right? I like to do that. And shout out to Josh Hyatt because he confronted me California aggressive. He confronted me California aggressive in the bar and was in his flip-flops and his jeans. And shout out to Josh, who just got a new job over at Odyssey today. I saw that on LinkedIn. That's awesome for Josh. But he's like, bro, what are you doing, man? And he's like, he's ready to go. He grab a surfboard, hang 10, whatever they do. And anyway, my bad.
Whatever they do. I think you can still wear the suit coat and hang 10. So there you go. It's all about the no tie.
No tie. We're good. Hey, everybody, I want to know where you are, who you are, what you're up to right now. Give yourself a shout out. Throw it in the comments. Let us know what's going on. How do you feel about wearing a suit at business functions in California? Put that in the comments. A little impromptu thing there, right? So, Robert, where in the world are you right now?
That's a great question. Now, since COVID, I've been home. I think a lot of people know that I've traveled a lot. It's usually on a United plane somewhere. Luckily, I'm not parked with all their planes down in the desert, but I live in Northern California in the San Francisco Bay Area, right in a little community called Menlo Park that Facebook put on the map, I guess. I act like nobody knows about it anymore, but I guess people do. Next to Stanford.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, there you go.
I heard of it. I got to tell you, Robert, not the first. Let me rephrase. There's a couple things. There's a couple moments that I recall of you. One was early in my ERC career, early in my mobility career when I first started hitting the scene, you were kind of the guy at the dais. There was a few people, there's a handful of people who were and I guess you were, I think you served, pardon my ignorance, chairman of Worldwide ERC at one point. Yes.
Yeah. Very proud of that. Yeah.
You did a great job. And you were up there, and you were the guy. And I was like, I want to be the guy. I want to be Robert Horsley one day. Honestly, this was, I remember how
you got to think about that one. I don't know.
I was like, how do I do that? And then flash forward, and I want to say it was Boston. Might have been the last time we were all together. And you were awarded I'm going to butcher this, but basically the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah, not the retirement award. Exactly. The Lifetime Achievement.
When are you retiring award? No, the Lifetime Achievement Award. And you gave a talk in your acceptance speech, and it was emotional for you. It was by your dad.
Yeah.
Super powerful.
You're going to do this to me. Yeah.
I didn't say I was going to bring this up, so I apologize for bringing this on you. But I respected that so much. I caught you in the lobby afterwards. And I told you how much it meant to me that you shared that and you were vulnerable and you were out there with that. And I just want to tell you how much I respected that.
Well, thank you. I do try to tell that story from time to time, and I think it was right in the middle of me dealing with his death. And really, he has always in my life been my true north. So, as an only child, that was a very big deal to me. And really, I lived his last year was when I was chairman, so right in front of everybody. So, I remember I couldn't. I think it was in Chicago actually before that Boston meeting where I couldn't catch my breath. I couldn't talk. That was most people that know me I don't really have a hard time talking, but I'll never forget that. So thank you. And I do remember you come up to me actually both times. really validating the fact that being transparent and opening up is a good thing for everybody to witness and to feel good about.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that, Robert. Thank you for leading that way. And everybody that's in the comments right now, shout out somebody that was big for you in your life. We're going to talk a little bit about how Robert got here, but we're also going to talk about where the industry's going, how service delivery is changing, what we need to be thinking about as we think about the future of our business. So, get active in the comments. I want to hear your questions. I want to hear your thoughts. We got people checking in here. We got Tim Quirk from Western New York. Looking forward to an anti-tie show. We got the anti-tires out here strong right now. Valerie McKenzie, happy Tuesday. Deluxe checking in. What up, H-Town? Nicola, good afternoon. Greetings from Germany. Awesome. We got San Diego's in the house. This is great. Stay super producer Stacy. Hi, Robert and Ben. I'm looking forward to the show. Stacy's like, as if you have another, Stacy's like, I'm looking forward to the show. She's stuck with us, like good or bad. She's like, I hope it's good today because I'm stuck here. Alan King from Germany. Alan, I meant to say something. I haven't seen you. I've missed you. Work's been very busy. Listen, if that job's getting in between you and what you need to be doing, Alan, you need to reevaluate your priorities. Quit that job. Get on the show in the comments more often. Marietta, rainy days in San Antonio. What's up? Simon Johns from the UK in the house. Mena Elsafori from Dubai is here. This is great. Lots of love out here. Michael Quigley's up in your neck of the woods.
He's wearing a tie there. What's up with that?
Quiggs, you're violating rule number 1. What's up? Household goods driver from Hampton Roads. Thinks we're a bunch of suits anyway. Stephen Meyer, appreciate you checking in. That's awesome. So, Robert, real quick, though, just because I am curious about your story, how did you get to where you are? I mean, executive director of Fragomen, the largest immigration firm in, I don't know, everywhere. How did you? What was that like? What was that career journey like? I'm really curious. And was there a moment really that kind of broke for you the right way?
Wow, that's a great question. And like I think everybody in mobility, I did not take a direct path here. I actually started my career, and I'll tie it back to my dad again. I grew up. He was a guy at a Big Four firm, and I don't think I saw him a lot as a kid. I told him, funny story. I told him that I would never travel as much as he did. I remember looking at him deep in the eyes and saying, I'll never travel as much as you did.
Isn't that crazy? Because no matter what we think about our parents, we're like, oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make that mistake, or I'm not going to do it that way. Or I'm going to do it different, or you can't tell me what to do. And then we just, what do? We emulate.
Oh my gosh. And I put him to, he got a great chuckle out of that for decades. That I probably traveled 4 times as much as he did. But I got involved in the business world. I started off at one of the big consulting firms, more in corporate. Believe it, I mean, here's the tie-in that doesn't tie in: corporate finance and mergers and acquisitions and turnarounds, business transformation type of consulting. Kind of led to a world in private equity and venture capital. And I met a friend, and a friend said, "Hey, let's go do a couple things. In the meantime, can you come in and really, take the 6-month gig at this firm called Fragomen, and kind of how do we kind of figure out what's next, right?" And this was a long time ago. So I decided to stay for 6 months. Ended up staying for well into the 20s, numbers of years, and have done a variety of things all along the way. But I look back and I think, what an incredible firm that 25 years plus thought about bringing in a guy that thought all about business models and technology transformation and how to really meet the ultimate kind of vision. That wasn't really heard about, aligning the business with where business was going 25 years ago. But hats off to an incredible partnership and a lot of colleagues along the way that have supported that, and I've kind of pivoted and changed all along the way, but always with that aim in mind of looking at what's next, and helping us align with those things. So
how do we do that? Because
I think I have the best job in the world.
And you probably do. I mean, I knew that the first time I saw you. I'm like that guy right there. But how do we do that? Because I feel like, okay, yeah, Fragomen was ahead of the game over 20 years ago in thinking about bringing you in to transform the business. But most of the people I see in the comments here are business leaders right now who are tasked with that very task right now as the world around us is changing and hurtling into the future. It's scary. We're white knuckling, just trying to hold on. How do you, any advice on how to get ahead of that and actually start to lead that transformational change instead of being transformed?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I don't know. Let me go back one step and just say I don't know that the firm brought me in to transform it, but more to kind of see and help in a few ways. And we ended up seeing that transformation is on the horizon, and let's get in front of it, and just applying a lot more business, a more of a business mentality to a service. And luckily, again, the partner, Austin Fragomen and Peter Lowy and all the people back in those days, had great business minds as well as legal minds, and we're very open to positioning ourselves there. I think the other thing that's kind of gotten me everywhere and kept me grounded in my family. You hear me talk about my family quite a bit. I've got 4 incredible kids, and I listen to them a lot. They not only do they keep me grounded and honest and all those things, but they also teach me a ton about what's coming. Right.
So is this where you're about to tell us what your TikTok handle is, Robert?
I will not. I don't want everybody to crash the servers, but yeah, I mean, so I probably knew about TikTok before a lot of people, just because of that generation. And I've got a kid in crypto. I've got a kid in other fintech things and other content generation. But I guess my point isn't what they're doing. It's more about what they're able to share about where they see things going. And quite frankly, they're the ones that pushing the narrative for the future. So it's a lot about listening to people and not in your own echo chamber, but listening to. And I had another friend that did the same thing. He was one of the first to kind of, this will really date me, to do MTV. And
music, television.
Yeah, there you go. He wanted to talk to my kids. He wanted is a good friend from college. He always wanted to talk to my kids to see what they were thinking about. Right. So he could kind of, he was the first to do a lot of things in the entertainment space. And it's, kind of looking to a generation that's behind you or a few generations behind you and figuring out what drives them. So I know that sounds kind of silly, but I do think that allows you to see the future a little bit better. And then obviously looking to solve problems, right? Solve the problem. Your consumer problem will probably translate into all kinds of people having that issue, and your business problem, right? That's where you find the nexus of the two is kind of where you start to shoot for.
Yeah, this is great, and I love the idea about listening, not only to our customers but to our kids, right? This is great. We've got people checking in here. Also, let me know what questions you have for Robert. We're going to take those questions as well. It's always more fun when you get involved. I love the questions. We got a couple coming in here as well. We've got Cape Town, South Africa in the house. Renee, what's going on? People are asking me if I've booked my flights to London yet. Pubs are open. Sukia, you know what, Robert, I'm going to have to cut this conversation short. I got to get on a plane to London and go get a pint. Any international travel coming up for you, Robert? Not quite yet. I mean, I'll be honest. Please. I'll start now. I traveled well over 300,000 miles a year for the last few decades, maybe more some years, maybe some. So for me, it's been a great time to stay home. There's so many people suffering, and I totally, and it's been horrible, and people understanding where they're, what's next for them. I think I've actually been able to have more of an impact by being home and helping more people that I can see that are in need. But for me, and connecting with my family and staying in one place has been phenomenal. But yeah, I'm starting to plan some of getting back in the seat and nice. Getting to Europe and getting to the East Coast, truthfully. Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to get to Europe in July as well. We'll see. Between COVID and my wife, the world's conspiring against me. but we'll see what happens. We got Vinny Valverde. What's up, Vinny from Portland? Love you, man. Erica. Oh, love Erica out in Ohio. Let's see. We got a couple other questions coming in. Let's see. Nicola, I'm so envious miles-wise, but yeah. Well, it's Nicola. Do you have kids? Because it's like the best of it's the best of times and the worst of times. Business travel, right? It's amazing, but it's magical, but it's also so tough sometimes. Elizabeth Martin, hello, Ben and Robert. Little late, better late than never. Never late is better, Drake. Michael Filia signing on a little late from Southern California. It's all good, Mike. No worries. Victoria from the DF Dub. Let's see here. Nicola has a question for you, though. And I love this question, actually. Robert Horsley, did you have any idea it would end up being more than 20 years in corporate immigration? Did you have any insecure moments, any doubts? You didn't think we were going to get deep, did you?
Great question. Did I think I'd be in corporate immigration for 20 years? No, I didn't think I'd be in it for 6 months. But I have to tell you, it was a great nexus for me. I'm still in it, and I still project to be in it. And I think that the cool part is it's an industry. It's all about people, helping people. It's one that's advancing tremendously. It's very you can have a lot of impact. Let's put it that way. The numbers of people that you can impact, and I won't just say immigration, but mobility in general, where you're touching lives, you're helping people improve their lives, and quite frankly, when you convert that over into the business world, you are really contributing to kind of the economy in a way that you're, in a flywheel. I usually talk about anything I talk about. I think about how do you look at, is it improving scale or is it improving quality? If it doesn't have to do with one of those two things, why are we talking about it? But immigration and mobility can really improve the flywheel of new product development. They're people that were brought in to do things that changes economies. I like to tell our people, the people that may not kind of see the end result of what they're doing, but they've really changed people's lives. Ultimately, they've changed economies, both that they live in and that they benefit from. So I think it's a pretty cool space to be in. I have a lot of people and a lot of friends in a lot of different places, but I think I get to feel that the best of the business world and the best of kind of more of an empathetic, people-oriented world at the same time.
You bring up a great point about changing economies, being able to be a catalyst for change in the world around us. Ben Suki has an excellent question here. What do you think the global mobility industry could do to promote Africa and other regions more? There seems to be too much of a focus on the U.S. market and the EU. It's time for change, isn't it?
It's a good question. Well, I think this is a pivotal time, right? Where I think what we've experienced over the last couple of years has been a little bit more of countries trying to protect their own, right? I think we've seen that all over. And I think that'll still be the case to a certain extent, right? Because the economy's been uncertain. People are fearful. Politicians typically have to listen to that side, to their constituents, and do what's right for them. At the same time, they have an obligation to grow their economy, right? And so they're trying to thread the needle all the time. So I think that governments are well advised to definitely not necessarily have a free flow of just anybody and everybody when, I don't know that that's sustainable, but to attract people more to, I think this new world of work anywhere will open up. If you can show that living wherever it is in any economy, in any geography is desirable, what are the, what's the value proposition to living there? And it doesn't all have to be about money. It'll attract people. And I think it's only going to get easier. Obviously, there's all kinds of compliance issues around work anywhere. But everything starts somewhere. I mean, when they invented the car, it killed a few people right at the beginning. They killed a few horses and everything else, but they figured the way out. They optimized.
Well, I mean, it's interesting you bring that up, as Tesla had another fatal crash, right? But they're undoubtedly looked at as the future of the automobile, the way their valuation is and everything. So I mean, it's an apropos, if not graphic and morbid comparison. Menace Africa needs to be ready as well, So interesting.
Absolutely. I think a lot of it's on countries, right? To be ready, to be attractive to the worker, because I think it'll go, and this is another theme I think that's out there, is I like to say the individual is going to drive more and more of the narrative, or the consumer is going to drive more and more of the narrative in the future. So I think that if you have made yourself, your country and your geography have made yourself a compelling case that this is why you want people there, and this is how they'll benefit from that, people they have more opportunity to be there than ever. So
yeah, these are great questions. Keep these questions coming, because I think this rides a thread that we've kind of been thinking about a little bit here too. And Ben Suki, I'm going to tie this together for you and give Mauritius a big plug, right, Ben? Ben is the unelected Mauritius travel ambassador, and Mauritius is one of those countries in Africa who is, I think, some sort of travel visa or work visa for remote workers. And it's one of those countries that's kind of hopped on this bandwagon to, I believe, and Robert, you can correct me if I'm wrong, or Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, or throw a link in there or something to substantiate what's coming out of my mouth right now. But assuming that Mauritius, this gorgeous island country, has this work from anywhere visa, and to your point, Robert, that consumers or employees or individuals are making these decisions more and more, how do we as global mobility, we as an industry, as a community of professionals, how do we support this trend of work from anywhere? Because it's such a hairy, complex problem that I see a lot of folks shrinking back from it, but yet at the same time, I can't help but think there's an enormous opportunity based on consumer demand.
So global mobility, I'm going to classify it as a skill. Okay, so we'll put that in a parking lot. I think it's a skill more than necessarily in an industry. Okay, parking lot.
All right. I'm with you.
So what did we say right at the beginning? Right, it was you see a problem or an opportunity, and you start optimizing for that. Right now, so clearly, work from anywhere, all kinds of compliance concerns. Right, are you setting up a place and there are all kinds of tax implications. You've got the immigration implications. You've got is this going to be an effective place for you to do your job and be effective at what you're doing? There's another parking lot word. But I think that's for us. I mean, these are things that mobility people have looked at forever. Can this job be done appropriately where it's going to be done? Can this person effectively do it? What are the compliance concerns in this area? How do we make sure that the person is healthy and is well taken care of? All those concerns that we think about anyway, right? Not the transactional ones, but the ones as we evaluate are going to be there in that as well. It's just there have to be some different solutions. Governments will adjust. It's all a competition, right? For where people will be and where you want to put people.
What are those solutions? So we're in the solutions business, right, Robert? And in my prior life, I used to move people's furniture, and you get them there legally, right? And we're all part of, we're all cogs on the wheel here, getting people where they need to go to do the jobs they need to do. But what do those services start to look like, and how might those services morph, in your opinion? What do we need? How do we craft or change the way that maybe we design the services to meet that need?
But okay. So this is a good point, right? So as opposed to focus on the person who wants to go work there and what do we do to make that happen, right? All of a sudden we're right back to what do we do to make that happen? I would submit we take a step back and say, Joe employee, Mary employee, they want to work from anywhere, right? So now what's important to them? How do you open up and let them know what's possible for them? That's a service, right? Hey, if healthcare is most important to you, or schooling's most important to you, or the weather's most important to you, or the color of the sand, the really deep blue water, I guess I'm giving mine away, but what's most important to you? Then I think one of the surveys, well, let's figure out where you can get that, because it doesn't have to be in the Bay Area or where the limits start to come off, right? And those limits will start to change. And so, yeah, before they get there, help them choose, help them figure out if you go back to that, the individual is going to help drive the narrative more and more because they have more and more ability to see what's out there. It's no longer somebody has a Rolodex card, or you have to go to an encyclopedia. All this stuff is real time. So what's important to you? Lots of people are trying to help you figure that out. What's important to you now? Where can you apply that? Where can you be happiest? Where will you do your best work? Where can you be most effective?
This it's interesting because I get the honor of talking to people who have been in relocation mobility for decades, and people come on and they talk about relocation used to be a piece of paper. We had a flyer for Brussels, and this is what we'd give an employee and say, here, you're going to Brussels, you'll need this, right? Read up, right? And then we kind of started to form these DSP services, where we'd meet them in Brussels and we'd take them around. And what you're talking about is going from providing the information, providing the service, to actually helping them curate whether or not they even want to be in Brussels. And I find that really interesting. It seems like curation is the new. Actually, I put that in. Actually, it's so funny you say that because I put that in my newsletter that came out today. It's like curation. I feel like we're in that phase right now where we curate all this information, because in the information age, there's no shortage of information. What we need to know is what's the good information,
right? Yeah, and maybe the presumption isn't that you want to go to Brussels. Maybe the presumption you start off with not destination, but attributes. So if you start off with attributes and where can I be most effective, and these are the things that are most important to me, and we all know that can be different for everybody, right? So then how do you help them figure out where that is? And I think half of it is it being effective, right? Am I happy after that? So let's help you figure out where it might be, how to get there, how to do that the right way. And then there's a whole nother piece after that is, are you really being everything? Are you getting everything you wanted? Is the company getting everything they wanted? How do you continue to optimize for that? So I think there's a whole roadmap of the future of how to, what mobility looks like. Again, I think it'll be a skill it ultimately comes down to, in my mind, acquiring talent, developing talent, right? Managing talent, I guess, is somewhat the same thing, and deploying talent. So there are really four, to me, though, that's the industry, right? And there's a skill that mobility can apply to any one of those four.
Right, and mobility is kind of a tool in the toolkit. So you're looking at mobility really in the greater talent context. Interesting. It's probably where we need to be too if we're going to be strategic, right, as an industry. And
if what everybody talks about, is workforce, right? It's not about things; it's about people, and then there's a competition for people and places. So we're there to help people figure that out, then execute on it. And then the piece I don't think we've ever been very good at necessarily. We've been good at the execution piece. We've been good at the hand-holding piece. But were we good? We always say we want to be more strategic. Well, the strategy comes in from at the beginning, right? And then evaluating, is it working? So that you can go back through kind of the loop of figuring out if you're doing it right or not. And a feedback loop that then gets you to adjust, and whether that's for somebody else or you've got now more information to know, if they really want that attribute, it's not going to happen here. So it's, and luckily we have all the tools for it now.
Yeah, this is great. People are really digging this. Keep those comments going. Jack Jampel says, interesting topic. Jack, I'd love for you to weigh in with a question here. I'd love to hear what's on your mind. Renee Stegman, retention of talent, ?
Absolutely. Retention. I think that to me goes talent management wise. Though I'm a big believer, I'm a little weird, I'm a little provocative. I think, you're, and this really is weird coming from a guy that's been in the same place for 25 years, but your employment is a journey now. And I think the employer, I'm a big believer in a book that Reid Hoffman, published a few years ago called the Alliance, right? It was about really partnering with the employee to give them a journey that made sense for them. And the part of that is being ready and willing to say goodbye and good luck when there's something out there that's going to advance them. And the theory is that's going to happen on, not only are you going to be saying goodbye, but you're going to be saying hello if you really embrace this theory, and can be an employer of choice, and one that's going to set you up for your next job, and one to accept somebody that's looking for something as well. So again, I'm a big believer in circular things. So that's when I hope I've seen a lot of that, but I think the fear gets in the way of everything. You don't want to let somebody go because then you got to replace them.
Right.
But you're really doing them a
beliefs.
favor. Yeah, absolutely. And look at the chance you just took, right? And coming out on your own and doing your thing. If somebody tried to really, really, really hold you back from that, they're not doing you any favor. They can say, "Hey, we're gonna advance you and advance you and advance you," but they're holding you back at the same time. And anyway,
it's great. I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, yeah, we try to give people counsel and advice, but we do it out of our own fears, as our own context and perspective, and it's limiting. Our limiting beliefs become other people's limiting beliefs. It's really kind of. Yeah, I dig it. Let's see here. We got some really cool comments. Keep those comments coming in. Cynthia says, Robert is my daily inspiration on LinkedIn. Always insightful. Thank you. Isn't that
fantastic?
Nice?
I didn't know anybody was reading that.
Yeah. Hey, I feel you. Mike Quigley, the man, the myth, the legend. Robert Horsley here. Let's see here. Nicholas says, governments need to pick up on the talk of the town. The talk of the town is remote work. Generation X, Y, Z want it. They live it. Technology allows it. Governments need to enable it. You talked before. I want to talk a little bit about kind of let's pontificate just a bit here. Let's put on our analyst hat. Governments need to enable it. The last sentence there. And you talked about some of the kind of protectionist, nationalist kind of vibes that have been going around the last couple of years, and then the pandemic, probably made that worse. What do governments need to do, and are they going to do it? Maybe the better question is, are they going to do it, and how do you see this thing playing out with our ability to move talent to the places that it needs to go, and to get the immigration status that we need where we need it? I mean, what are your thoughts there?
Okay, well, let's start off. I've got an optimistic bias, so weigh that.
Please, we need that. Bring it.
So do I think? Yeah, sure. I think governments and companies are going to get it, because ultimately they are looking. They're self-interested. The government's self-interested. Companies are self-interested. People are self-interested. So where do you find where that aligns? Right. I think what we're still recovering from a little bit is just massive globalization on a really fast basis. Right. And it left a lot of people behind. I don't think we can deny that. It left a lot of people behind. And now we're playing a little bit of catch up. So because I don't think anybody intended to leave people behind. But, I think the masses have spoken and feel like they aren't on an equal playing ground. So I think we have to have strategies to help bring those people along. So they have an opportunity to advance, if you will. And at the same time, I think governments are going to learn that they need to continue to attract talent, which will attract revenue, which will attract. So it's all kind of a circular thing. But this fear thing is a very powerful element. And people think that, if somebody else is doing a job, that's a job you could have been doing, and you need to just keep people out. I don't know. I can see where that fear comes from, but I think ultimately governments know there's a longer view than what they're trying to solve for today. But in order to get there, you have to satisfy something today. So it's a very hard needle to thread, but I'm optimistic that it'll become clearer and clearer. I mean, we just advanced 10 years in remote work, right? I mean, we've all talked about it forever. In a month's time, everybody started working at home, right? And we really advanced 10 years in that 1 month. Now it's going to take a few years. So I don't think we're going back, by the way. I think the genie is out of the bottle, that you can be really effective and not be sitting in a cubicle, right? So now we've got some time to figure out, how do you really optimize for that? How do you optimize for relationships, right? How do you optimize for the most effective parts of the work? So it's going to take a little bit more for governments to catch up to enable that. But I'm bullish that unless we get so fearful that we end up backing up while we're trying to get ahead, I think that's what, at least from where I sit, and that's what I kind of do every day, is like, whoa, why are we using that old paradigm to evaluate what we're going to do tomorrow?
Yeah, I think you make a great point though, and you said something before that really caught my attention. I think it needs highlighting is that people got left behind in the race to globalize and the race to pursue economic growth and development. I mean, people did get left behind. We saw that evidenced in a lot of the political decisions that were being made around the globe simultaneously. So I mean, it's symptomatic of a larger trend. And I think it's interesting because immigration often bore the brunt of the backlash on the being left behind. When we look at statistics, it says that immigrants actually create more jobs than they take. And yet, intuitively, people say, well, if that guy got a job and I don't have a job, then he must have got the job I needed, right? So, I mean, I get intuitively why they think that. But when you look at the math and the economics, it doesn't actually play away. Does immigration have a PR problem?
Oh, absolutely. It's the third rail of politics. Nobody wants to touch it, right? Why has nothing happened in the last 15, 20 years that got passed through in the United States through Congress or the like? Because I mean, there's so much emotion attached to it. Yeah, I definitely think it has a PR problem because, just to your point, immigrants have created a tremendous amount of work, created much more than they've taken. Yet there's a fear factor that somebody's taking from you. But I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
Nothing starts out perfect, right? Nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
how many examples do we need? Nothing starts out perfect. It continues to evolve. And even some of the things we think are the most modern didn't start out perfect. And when you're talking about coming out with new products, and like same thing, you don't want to. None of them are perfect. The new AirTag by Apple, that thing is so thick, can't fit it in my wallet. But I know, within 2 years they'll have sold me on 2 more generations and it'll be thinner, but because it's not perfect.
20 years ago, we had the George Costanza wallet, and now you're complaining about AirTags. Think about that, right? This is great.
Exactly. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it is super cool. We've got there's this amazing conversation going on right now in the comments. I'm going to do my best to try to synthesize this and make it into something that we can actually use here. Barbara Colvin says, cultural immersion is important. Work from anywhere limits the capabilities, preventing employees from fully integrating and reaching their potential and the potential of the work being done. With the ever-changing environment, we need to be sure this is a key focus, being part of, I'm assuming she's saying, the culture of the organization.
Absolutely. I mean, so we're going to have different problems to solve for, right? I mean, that's every step ahead is going to create something that we're going to have to solve for a little bit differently, right? We're all used to being, what are we going to do to make sure people stay together? How are you going to get that? How are you going to influence the culture of a company when it's all over Zoom? And I'm here to say, I don't think it's going to be any one extreme or the other. I think it's going to be much more of a hybrid, and there are going to have to be new solutions to be able to disseminate and integrate and to inspire. And they're going to be much more digital, but then human interaction is everything, right? So what are you going to do? Another good book, and this is about 4 or 5 years old. I tell a lot of people about this book, but it's really interesting if you think about it. It was called A Year Without Pants. I think I'm getting that right. And
can somebody goes off of that and throw a link in there for Amazon or something? A Year Without Pants.
A Year Without Pants. It was written by a former Microsoft guy who took on the CEO role of WordPress, and they didn't have offices. I mean, this was 4 or 5 years ago. And they all worked remotely. The Year Without Pants refers to the fact that they were always like this. I am wearing pants right now, but apparently this guy didn't think he needed to.
Don't need to fact check that.
Yeah, there you go. So, but the thesis was, okay, we're going to work like this. We're colleagues. We work together all day long. We're interacting. We're all doing our thing. But then once a quarter, he would bring everybody together, someplace in the world. So people were going to have intercultural experiences somewhere in the world. They were getting together. They were building that trust. They were doing the team building. They were doing the things you needed to do, person to person, relationship to relationship, and experiencing the world at the same time. So here's a company way ahead of its time in my mind from an organizational management perspective. But don't you think that would kind of fit today? Is like you get to optimize your work life integration right now from personal and work, but then you're going to be able to continue to keep integrated with your colleagues and with the world just in different framework. So I don't think it goes to everybody just stays at home forever by a long shot. But I think we can solve for it. Again, I warned you. I'm an optimist.
I love it. I love the optimism. It's great. Jack's got an interesting point here, and I think it's actually a segue into something I wanted to ask as well. So let's see. Jack says, if you are truly looking to be involved in the strategic portion of mobility, wouldn't it be better served that your discussion should be with organizations' talent management folks? The model of most companies is that mobility only gets it after decisions are already being made, i.e., that the talent management is kind of more at the strategic level, and mobility kind of carries out the orders and the requisitions.
You know, Jack, you make a great point, and I follow so much about what you do, and I think I think we're highly aligned. Let's put it that way. I think that you let me pick my parking lot item and bring it back. Mobility is a strategy. And I think we talked a little bit about TA and talent management and development and all those things. I think a mobility strategy can be applied to talent management, to talent acquisition, and people with those very strategic and how to apply the mobility strategy should be be highly integrated in being talent management professionals, talent acquisition professionals, and they actually are 3 steps ahead of the game because they understand how mobility works. So I don't think you to a certain extent, we're walking in the room now because we're trusted advisors. I guess I would invite us to be more than trusted advisors, but professionals that understand our strategy and others as well. Where that'll lead, I don't know. I know I'm being a little provocative there, but my colleagues have been so good at understanding mobility. I would, and again, back to an earlier part of the conversation, we're using mobility to get something done, right? But let's go to the things where that get done and fit more squarely into that. Another reference, a buddy, Josh Burson. I don't know if any of you have heard of him. He's a kind of used to be with Deloitte. He's with the Burson Academy, I think is what it is now. Great HR consultant, guru, visionary. I think one of the things I read of his just recently is that, and he was talking a lot more about technology, but rather than all these individual pieces, they really everything needs to be highly integrated into a single work stream and to meet the person where they're doing their job. Meet them there. Meaning, don't make somebody pop out into another piece of technology to get a piece of this done. Meet them in a highly integrated workflow. I think the same is true just with our jobs. Who says that mobility has to be a separate job? Right? If the goal is talent acquisition, right, that you're going to acquire talent or you're going to move talent or you're going to do whatever, have this as a skill that fits into that. So I would advise us all to keep reaching and to getting closer to what is measured and what's impactful.
Wow. Is that what you said? Yeah. What you said brings up so many thoughts, Robert. I mean, because mobility does seem like it's on an island sometimes in organizations, and it's oftentimes because the skills that mobility possesses, I know you say mobility is a skill, but the sub skills, right? Immigration, the tax, the logistics, et cetera, are so niche, especially within HR, comp and ben, talent, wherever it sits, right? It's so niche. You're so different, right? And so you're just kind of on this island, right? But what's interesting is the systems are also on an island. There's so many silos of systems. And you bring up a point I never considered before, which is to say, I wonder if the systems were more integrated, if mobility systems talk to HRIS systems, talk to all the other systems, would that mobility function become less isolated and siloed?
No question. And I think we've been talking about that and kind of when we talk about the mobility ecosystem and how it has to be more highly integrated, whether that's data, and get me talking about that topic. I think in order to do a lot of that, we need to have a much more standardized data set. It's something Worldwide ERC is really kind of committed to helping the industry on, is finding some of those things that are really foundational issues that aren't, until they're solved as a group, everybody will benefit from that. And that's something we're trying to get traction on. And Worldwide ERC on their board are trying to take a role in that. I'm
going to stop you there. I just want to double click on that just for a second, because I want to get in. I want to stay here on this integration thing and this data thing and all this, because I think it's so foundational to what we're talking about and where we're going to be in 10 years and everything. What are some of the challenges, since you kind of have a little more direct exposure to it, what are some of the challenges with the integration, the interoperability, creating the standardization standards?
Well, it's a great question. And parking lot item again is, I think integration was and is a thing, but I think the future is more than integration. I don't think it's integrating tools. I think it's embedding. So we can come back there. So that's again a little bit more of a prediction, but I think we will be embedding skills and knowledge and tools within other tools, so they're seamless. But even more than just integrating a data flow. As far as what's keeping the data flow from, this is something we've been talking about for how many years? I don't know. If I had a nickel for every time I use the word integration, I wouldn't have to be working on this call today. So I'll say integration 2 more times and see if that starts to add up. But I think that part of it is the lack of standardization of how to do it and what you're integrating. The analogy I always give is that it's like, to me, the integration of data is like plumbing, right? It's the plumbing that's underneath the house or above the house, wherever it is. And when you go to buy a house, you aren't looking at the plumbing to say, does it connect to all these rooms? It's assumed that it's connected to all the rooms. And you're assuming that the water is water, right? And what you're really looking at is all the fixtures, right? You say, it's a great sink or a great shower, a great bath, whatever it is, right?
Great analogy. Yeah.
And I think all us mobility providers are in the fixture business, right? But we spend a lot of time in the plumbing and in defining what the water is. Whereas in the plumbing industry years ago, agreed on the size of the pipe and what the fitting would be. So anybody not doing this, no, we know better that we're gonna make it larger. Then they have to get everything adapted to fit the pipe. Well, we don't have the right size pipe. Everybody's creating their own, not because they're doing anything wrong, because they're trying to advance everything, right? But if we collectively could agree on some of these, the taxonomy and on a methodology, I think we'd get further ahead, and a lot of that energy could be spent on better fixtures, whatever that fixture might be.
Well, you're so right. I see all the investment in the fixtures. I see all the investment in the user interfaces and the portals and the customer facing and the bells and whistles. Bob Portali's over here laughing out loud. Love that analogy. That might be one of the top 5 analogies I've heard doing this show in a year and a half.
I've got better
pictures. Well, don't waste them all. We might have to have you come back if you got. I didn't know you had this kind of gold, to be honest with you. This is great. No, I love that analogy.
I'm very passionate about this. I think one of the roles I can play in the industry I'm one of the reasons I think I've been able to speak to larger audiences, because I'm not driven on. I'm driven to help the industry get engaged more in the larger business. And help fix some things. It's not just, I love Fragomen. You've heard me talk about Fragomen and the colleagues I have and the opportunities that they've given me to help drive transformation and success. And it wouldn't be anywhere without that firm. I live and breathe it. But at the same time, I feel we've got to do something for the whole. Everybody benefits from lifting. Yeah. It's the rising tide theory. So I am passionate about this. I think one of the roles I can play is bringing leaders of these organizations together to figure out where there's commonality that can only help each other.
Here we are. We've built all these houses. We built all these houses, and they're profitable and all this. But we built it on incongruent plumbing systems. And so now to make the plumbing all talk together and put it on one common water grid or whatever, I'm trying to carry this analogy.
Good try.
Yeah, I'm trying out here. There's a hole in my bucket. So how do we rip it all? How do we?
I don't think you rip it. I don't know if you need to. So let me use another analogy: the ATMs, right? ATMs all started out you could only go to your bank's ATM, right? And
Yeah.
and that's not true anymore, right? You can go to any ATM because they agreed on standards of how they would talk to the banks would talk to each other. And now there's still 100 ATM companies that make these things. There's still as many banks, maybe a few less, but not based on ATMs. But they agreed on a standard, so it could all work together because people wanted to get their money where they wanted to get their money when they needed to get their money. It wasn't a consideration about where's my bank. They wanted to get, so the banks all came together and solved for that, right? And then optimized for themselves. Truthfully, Lynn Shotwell likes to give the highway example. If you couldn't get off the highway and you just were on a straight road from point A to point B, and it didn't connect with something else where your car would fit, and it was really skinny or it was really, then you wouldn't get anywhere. There would just be a series of all these, one lane roads
versus tubes or something, right? There's tunnels. Drew says, this is why I love Robert. He has a larger view about it all. He has a vehicle to make the industry better. Nice, Drew. Look at this, man. You didn't know you were going to come on and lift it up like that, right? So let me ask you this now. So now, okay, we're envisioning this world where the system's all taught, there's integration, there's interoperability, we have an ecosystem, we've achieved ecosystem. Oh, you like making predictions? Over under 5 years from now, do we have this?
A standardized ecosystem?
Yeah.
I think we have greater standardization. We have greater standardization. And then people that choose to be in it and choose not to be. Just like the plumbing industry, right? You've got your disruptors and you've got your outliers and sure. I think, again, it all continues to change. I think if we could agree on a taxonomy that's got 80% of it and people can differentiate on the other 20% if that's needed, but you'll quickly find out if you need to or not, right? If you're the business part of you will decide, is that 20% returning anything to me? Am I really delivering what the client needs, or should I divert the attention I would have spent on that to something else? Or you might find out that something else requires you to have something different than that 20%. So this is an elevation tool. I don't think it solves everything, but again, I always revel at the fact that this is an industry where everybody knows each other. For the most part, people really get along and try to help each other, but we don't work together as well as we probably could.
We pretend to try to help each other. We're not actually helping each other. We're nice. We're very polite. We're very nice. We all drink on each other's bar tab. We all, take each other's stuffed animals at the show and everything. But I mean, are we sitting in a room? Are we sitting in a room and actually going open kimono with our plumbing and saying, let's see how we connect these tubes together? But now let's assume 5 years from now we do. Let's assume that we're in a much better.
And let's be careful. I don't think you need to be completely open kimono, right? I don't think that's it. I think it is agreeing what is really proprietary and what's not, and what really is valuable, and what's just a commonality, and how do you get ahead and really meet. I mean, I think we all know what. I don't think we all know, but I think if you start with what the client wants and what the client needs, and what the client may not even know they need yet, and you work your way backwards, you figure out this is just something we need to have solved so we can do the rest of it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I want to talk about the client and the way the client makes decisions here. Chris Roberts says, to that point, I think the reason why we don't have integration is less of a tech constraint and more of a not understanding how we all work together. I don't see the industry accomplishing integrations fully or well until we figure out better ways of working together. I think your point too, Robert, your point about it not being proprietary is important. I think the secret sauce is in the procedures and the way that we do what we do, not necessarily the tech and the API. But I want to make time because we're running our top 5 is going to be a top 2 today if we don't make some time here for this next topic real quick. So I want to ask you about the way our clients changed. And since we had Bob Portali in here in the comments here, I asked him a similar question, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. Is relocation becoming consumerized? Are we
What
going
isn't?
from a B2B to a B2C business?
I don't know that we're becoming B2C, but I think we're B2C adjacent. What isn't being consumerized? 10 years ago, you could get your news by my Yahoo because you defined what your news would be, right? Everything in the world has been personalized to where, and I think I started off saying this, right? Is it that the individual is driving the narrative? What's the first word in employee experience? It's employee.
Employee.
Yeah, wait, that's a good test. So you got it. One right. So, yeah, of course, the employee, the individual, the consumer, whatever you want to call it, is going to drive more of the narrative and are going to make choices that they, when they have choices, they want to make the choices. They want to be responsible more for themselves. Are they completely responsible for themselves? No. And that's why so our company is going to always have to build frameworks so people can I think companies are going to need to build frameworks that allow people to have choices. That will help them stay compliant, will help them stay optimized, to help that company stay ahead. I mean, they're competing for talent, they're competing for business, they're competing to be profitable. So how do you balance all that? It's with a framework, but it does come down to it's more efficient, and you can keep your employees happier if they can have more say into it. So if that's what you're saying is consumer, driving to a consumer model, then I guess I'm saying yes. I think there are a lot of other components to that. So
I'm going to ask though. I'm going to follow this up because now you say you're an optimist, so I'm going to challenge.
Absolutely.
I'm going to challenge you here. So give me an optimistic story how this is actually a good thing for our business. Give me an optimistic spin on how maybe more consumer driven decisions are actually a good thing. Because I'll be honest, coming out of the moving business, I've done it on this show for a long time. I've actually been pretty good lately, but I've railed against lump sums, and I've railed against the fragmentation and the of the business and everything, and how hard it is when you just give transferees a check and say, here you go.
Well, yeah, but that's lump sum.
Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, that's lump sum. That's choice, but that's like into the wild, wild west, right? Yeah, I said I think there are two movements that are gonna we can sit there and say no, or we can say this is again something that's out of the bottle. Our industry is late to this game, right? Again, my Yahoo 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, where I could personalize my news. I could personalize so many things with a click of a few buttons now. Now, I can personalize the way I do my banking, all those things. But let's go back and say you don't have to just give somebody free rein. It's not mutually exclusive. You need to build frameworks that provide choice, that give transparency to what choices they're both pros and cons, right? But where you can stay compliant, you can stay ahead, you're taking care of the person, you're guiding them along the way. People can do their own taxes, but they're not advising them to break the law, right? So do I think there's I'll go back to the way I said it. I think the individual will be driving the narrative more. That's an ambiguous kind of way to look at it, but I also think marketplace will be a bigger deal, but I don't think marketplace is all bad. A lot of the vendor community say, well, marketplace, and they're just going to be purely making a choice on price. I think that's one way of seeing it. I think the other way is, how are you differentiating yourself in a marketplace? There are brands that meet all kinds of different price points and deliver all kinds of different things, and it's just an easier way to get to them. So,
and then how do we offer qualitative data on other deciding factors besides price, right? I mean, price has an extreme advantage because it's qualitative. It's a number. It's $300, but how do we offer qualitative data on experience?
We should get better at that then. I think that, we should get better at that. So because transparency isn't just about price. It's about being clear enough and communicating well enough that you can articulate what you will be getting or what you won't be getting, as opposed to this big shell game of it, it being opaque. So
I mean, I'll tell you what, and I don't know much about immigration, but I'm going to throw out a scenario that might be totally baseless. But if somebody tells me it's $1,000 and I got a 70% chance of getting approved to get into a country, or it's $1,500 and I got an 80% chance of getting approved, I'm taking that 80% chance all day long, right? Because you told me you expressed the difference in my odds, right? So I mean, I think there's all sorts of opportunities, and I appreciate you enlightening me. Here we are, we're at an hour, but we still have to do a list. We got to end up. We need the cherry on top. This is an amazing conversation. The people have been incredible in the comments. There's stories being told in the comments over here. I appreciate all of you. Keep them coming. Let's keep this thread going. It's amazing. I see everybody. Jack Craven just got in here. Look at Jack over here. That's what's up. So, Robert, we got a list. Stacy, we got a list here. We got a top. Let's do a top two. We got a top two. Let's do a top two. We got a top two. Top two skills for the future. We're talking about the future.
Edited down for Robert, who will take the hour for two. Okay, I get it.
This is the TLDR. TLDR.
I got it. I got it. So the question, what are the top two skills for? That's a great question for me. And by the way, I get this question from, most of you don't know, I've got 4 kids. 3 of them are older. One is let me just say 32, 30, 28, and 15. So there are a lot of the parents I'm around that are the parents of the 15-year-olds, right? And they see my other kids and say, wow, you must have seen into the future. What are the skills of the future? And I will tell you, so I've honed these down to what I think are 2 skills, and that are communication skills. Yeah, communication skills and project management skills. So put another way, when you go to college, when you do any of these things, what are you learning? You're really learning how to write in a way that people can understand you succinctly, to do that orally, to be able to tell stories so people can really understand what it is you're trying to say. I think whatever you can do to improve upon your communication skills is number one.
You know what I boil this down to, when you say go to college and what do you learn, and you give me project management communication, the way I would boil that down is either deliver or talk your way out of it. That's how I'd boil that down.
But you might be good at talking your way out of it, but only once or twice, right? So you ultimately have to. So these project management skills, I think, I've told my kids about this, and I think it's not just being a project manager, but it's knowing, especially if we're not all going to be sitting together. Somebody said that before. I mean, we're taking some of the fabric out of knowing how to get something done, because you're all around the people that are doing it, and it's going to be a little harder to do. But if you understand how to put pieces of the puzzle together that aren't necessarily in order, right? I mean, if you go piece 1, piece 2, piece 3, it's like shooting a film, right? They don't shoot a film in sequence, right?
That's what we just did with our top 5. We did it down to 2, and we went 2, 1, 2, 1, and now we're back on 1. I mean, it's like Pulp Fiction. We don't know where we're at in the narrative. We're just riding with it. And
the actors didn't know what the end was, right? But they might have shot the end on day 1. We hear that all the time if you hear this behind the stories things. But editors are great project managers, right? Where they know, okay, it's most convenient to shoot that last scene on day 1, but then we're going to stitch it all together so it makes sense. So that's really the nexus, right, of project management and communications. You've told a story, you put all the pieces together, and you did it in a very, and if you're going to work on your own, man, you need to keep yourself to getting things done. You need to see how everything stitches together. That's a lot of words.
Stacey Huff. Yeah, Stacey Huff back there has been clicking the 1 and the 2 and the back to the 1. She's my project manager. I'm the communication. She's project management. She delivers, and if she doesn't, I talk my way out of it. That's how we roll over here. But Robert, this was such a great conversation. We got people commenting over here. Chris Roberts says the project management one is really important and interesting, considering we are an industry that is very relationship focused, which doesn't always go hand in hand with project management. Chris is basically taking a dig at salespeople out there. That's fine, Chris. I see you. It's cool. Thank goodness.
Well, that's why they're both the important skills, right? They need to go hand in hand.
That's it. Elena is setting the record straight. Did I hear lump sum? It's true. It's not completely evil. I didn't say all that, Elena. We can have a
lump sum has a PR problem, Ben. Immigration has a PR problem. Lump sum does too. It needs to be renamed and a framework around it. It's the plan of choice with structure, with guardrails.
Oh, gosh. Guardrails.
I know. I'm in trouble now, huh? Never to be invited back. This isn't even going to be published now.
Well, you told me you have other analogies. That might be worth the price of admission.
I got a lot more.
This is great. Chris Roberts is laughing because I called him out for his salespeople hate. No, I'm just kidding, Chris. I love you, man. No, but this is a lot of fun. Robert, I learned a lot. The plumbing analogy was amazing. Top 10 moment. But let me ask you, you want to leave us with maybe just a final thought? What should we go forward thinking about?
Being open. Look at what you want. Look at in your ideal world. Look at your habits and what you're attracted to. Now, how do we apply those to what we do every day? They're not different, right? And you stay open to that and stay open to change and seeing that the world, I think, is more positive in the way we can work in the future. Then it will, if we all work together in doing it. I really like what Chris said. In the fact we just need to learn how to work together more. We say it a lot, but we don't do it. And Ben, hats off to you for, having a dialogue about this, letting people, great communicator and up and coming in the industry. You'll get to the head of the industry because you are bringing people together and you are getting them to talk. You're a great listener. So a lot of admiration. I think I knew it from, I think the first time we met was actually in Boston in a lobby long before any of the things where you saw me talk. But anyway, hats off to you. You're doing great stuff, getting people to talk and exchange ideas. There you go.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And people are really enjoying the conversation. Elena says, thank you. Just thank you. I think she was talking about you setting me straight on lump sum, but just in general, thank you so much. Barbara Colvin as well. And on behalf of everybody else watching today, Robert, this was fantastic. Nicola was loving it as well. Thanks everybody who was out there getting active in the comments. It is amazing. Because of you, the show is always better when you're involved. Your questions are always better than mine. Keep them coming. Stay active. Hit that like button. Give Robert a virtual round of applause. Hit that green, smash that green button a whole bunch of times for Robert. Robert, thank you, man. I really appreciate you being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for what you're doing for all of us.